The next item has to do with the Phillips Court development. There have been a number of, and this has come up at a few meetings, some concerns by the residents at Phillips Court regarding some items on site. The issue of primary concern, I believe, to the borough is the lights that have been installed by the developer. On reviewing the final plans, the lights that were installed are substantially different than the lights that were required in the plans. In addition, I understand there are also some issues with those lights currently in that they are, I believe they're broken, some hanging off the poles. We have sent a number of letters to the developers. Mary Ellen, the borough engineer, sent a letter. I followed that up with a letter from my office asking that they replace the lights with the lights that were required by the final plans. And we initially received a response, I believe, to Mary Ellen's letter. I don't believe I've received a response to mine. The question is, currently there are funds remaining on an irrevocable letter of credit that was issued in escrow by the developer. And the question remains as to whether or not council wants to authorize us to proceed forward, wants to move forward using that money under the development agreement as a result of the developer's failure to address the issues, or in the alternative, take action to compel the developer to address those issues as required under the development agreement. And I believe I have since the last meeting, last run around, I've spoken with both the property manager and the association president. The property manager, Steve Artie, is currently in the process of putting together a proposal for that work on the property to get an idea of what would be involved and what the cost would be. He found alternative lights other than the ones specifically identified in the final plan, but what he believes are substantially similar to those that were proposed in the final plan. He estimates, and he has not completed the proposal, he estimates that the cost for both the equipment and the installation would be around $4,500, which is less than the amount currently remaining in the escrow. I understand that there were some other issues raised by the association president with other issues on site. I don't believe that those issues fall within the development agreement, but I don't know if they're here today and would want to address that. But the issue, again, that's of specific concern right now are those lights, because those do fall squarely within the scope of the development agreement.
Okay.
A couple questions.
Yes.
You seem to be posing two possibilities, just so I understand our possible course of action this evening. The first is to apply the money in escrow to essentially pay for the proper lights and
ability to access those escrow funds for this purpose.
But can we?
I believe, having reviewed the development agreement, I believe that council can, but that does not mean that there would not be some exposure to risk of either litigation if the developer were to disagree with that action. I believe that there would be, again, like I said, I think that under the development agreement, use of those funds for that purpose is appropriate. But I'm simply saying there is risk that there might be some action by the developer.
But just to be clear, my understanding is the developer has been asked time and again by the association and also more recently by the borough to essentially make it good, make it right, have the lights that were approved originally installed there, and they just have been non-responsive.
They have been given ample opportunity to address the issue as far as I could tell. At least from I don't know specifically what communications came from the association, but I know at least from council they've gotten a couple of invitations to comply.
We have representatives here. Steve, okay. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Hi, my name's Neil Modell, and I'm the president of the Phillips Court Association. First thing I'd like to do is to thank Mike Sellers for his involvement. He's been very diligent in coming by our development and being available for conversation. I believe, I can confirm that there have been a number of reach out to Frank Tyrell, who's the owner of Cologne, which I believe, which was the developer. The builder, Ron Heverly, I don't know this for sure, but I believe that he is bankrupt. It's been taken over by Mr. McGrath, and he essentially has said that he has nothing at all to do with that which has already been done. I think, just a correction to Mr. Cohen, I think that the price will be a little bit less than $4,500. It might be $3,500. But the thing with the development, both the lights and the other issue that I wanted to bring up are the railings, is this is not aesthetic in nature, but safety in nature. We have decorative railings that have not been put in, and I can understand that they will go in whenever Mr. McGrath puts them in because he said that he will, but there are other railings that have not been put in, which are not decorative. They're 4 foot or more high off the ground. The lawn area is accessible to young children. What Mr. McGrath has done is to put in, for the new homes that have settled, he's put the railings in, but not on the ones that have been settled a couple of years ago. But again, I want to just convey, and I have conveyed it to Ms. Waldorf, I believe to Mr. Cohen, and Mike Sellers, that this is not aesthetic in nature, but safety in nature. As it relates to the lights specifically, if you look at the drawings, which I believe all of you or some of you have certainly been provided in the past by our property manager, the lights that Cologne or Heverly put in bear no resemblance whatsoever to what are there. Essentially, the lights, if you're familiar with Barclay Court, our lights are supposed to be, they're portrayed as precisely like that, a lantern look. And we have this plastic globe. As it relates to the safety issue, all 4 of them have blown over. And they've blown over onto the bulb, which has then in turn melted the fixture, which either is a fire hazard or, in fact, could blow completely off onto somebody. So again, that is both aesthetic and safety. That's what I can add to the equation here.
Thank you.
My other officer can he speak for a minute?
Sure.
Thank you all. My name is Jeffrey Cooper. I'm at 14 Dunham Lane, and I also appreciate the opportunity to speak about this issue. First, Mr. Cohen, just so we can confirm, the developer is Mr. Tyrell, is that right?
That is who we've been communicating with.
Okay. I would like to make a proposal, since you were giving the board what looked like 2 options and you were concerned about exposure. I would suggest that the board release the money, and instead of being concerned about Mr. Tyrell suing the board, why don't the board sue Mr. Tyrell for the money that the board is going to need to spend, or the escrow money needs to be spent, instead of, because I don't see that there's an exposure issue at all. I mean, we were promised a certain light, and Neil has clearly spoken to the fact that we have not only an aesthetic issue, but we have a functional issue. We have a issue of concern and worry about that light blowing over. It has been repaired, I'm going to say literally 4 to 6 times. Even every time there's a small wind, the globe that sits on top leans over. If any of you care to drive around and look carefully, you'll see a burned out area in the globe. So I think we have an urgent issue that needs to be addressed. The second issue, I just want to say this. We've had numerous meetings with Mr. McGrath. He's been a gentleman. To date, he's promised certain things, and he's followed through with his promises. So none of this is against Mr. McGrath, and we're certainly hopeful and praying that we get to complete the job. There's still 3 houses to be sold. I would ask you, if you're coming by north on State Street, to drive past our development. The 2 houses that sit on State Street, in the back of those houses, which is where the garages are, you will see wrought iron railings that line the driveway. They were installed initially when the houses were completed. The 4 other houses, 2 of which settled in the last 3 months, and those were settled by Mr. McGrath. Mr. McGrath took care of his responsibility and put those railings up. There's 2 houses that settled years ago. Now, either it was an oversight by the board, not realizing it was a hazard, or the issue never came up. But one way or the other, we no longer look at these as aesthetic, but we look at them as safety and functional. There's a gentleman that's going to, a couple that lives next to me who is settling at the end of the month. I've made him aware of this so that he can discuss this with Mr. McGrath, and at his settlement, or before his settlement, that railing hopefully will get completed. So we believe that we have 2 safety issues. Both of them are of great concern to us as a board, as being on the board and as a 3rd board member in our development. We're concerned about our liability. We have an issue. Suppose somebody gets injured or hurt, they may sue the board, Neil, myself, and another young lady. So we would like these issues addressed as soon as humanly possible. And I don't think that we should wait for Mr. Tyrell at this point to address them, even though he should be responsible for both of these issues. Either you sue him and get and use money that we have sitting and hopefully get it accomplished, and then sue him anyway. I would certainly hope that that would happen. Thank you for your time.
Have we heard anything back from Mr. Tyrell in response to your letters?
I have not.
Okay, so he hasn't responded at all.
He responded to Mary Ellen's letter, but I have not received a response to my letter.
I'm trying to remember how long this has been going on, gentlemen. Do you recall? Anyone? The railing issue, or not the railing issue, the lights issue.